the NWA back into the spotlight.
I was thinking that it might be a good idea if you and I formed an alliance.
Let's get ready to rumble! Welcome to the greatest wrestling program in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? Stop what you're doing and listen.
It's the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, DKM, and J Cal.
Hey, what is up, everybody? This is the Alliance blog. This is the Alliance Guys podcast, and you can see, we got one of the greats here with us. We've got DKM, we've got myself, of course, we've got a former World's Junior Heavyweight Champion right there, and Kevin Frazier. But we also have who I like to call is the Grand Slam of the NWA, the Dane event, if you will, the man who has been a former NWA World Tag Team Champion, a man who held both the national and the North American title. He unified those things, and he never lost them. I'm talking about the guy who's a former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. He's highlighted cards in Tokyo. He's highlighted cards all across the United States, competing for, well, of course, the NWA, but also New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, Ohio Valley, Impact. And I'm talking about Jax Dane. You guys might have called him Godzilla in the past, but he is the Dane event. Jax, welcome to the show, pal. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate you thinking enough of me to put me on the TV screen. So thanks a lot.
Absolutely. And of course, Kevin, DK, Chop Liver, how you guys doing?
Man, I'm about as excited as I can possibly be right now. Jax, you may not know this, but the guys on the show know I'm a huge fan of just straight up heavyweight wrestling. Right on. And we got one of the best, biggest, big smashers in the modern era on our show tonight, and I'm pretty pumped up about it. I don't know if I'm going to get all my questions in tonight because I just got so many places we could go. Super glad to have you on, Jax, and just really it's an honor and a pleasure to have you.
Well, I do appreciate that, Kevin, and you should know, I think we've expressed this to one another in the past. I've got just as much respect for you as you do for me, your accomplishments, your resume, your career, man. It's nothing to not be extremely, extremely proud of. So thank you for spending your time with me tonight.
Appreciate it.
And, you, Jax, have been somebody that this podcast has talked about, celebrated for a very long time, going back to when you were the NWA Lone Star champion. There were two guys that our pal DKM over here put over very, very early and often back in the early days of this podcast. And that was this junior heavyweight coming out of Texas and Kevin Frazier, Kevin Douglas, the modern day hero, and this heavyweight who is just a beast of a man in Jax Dane. And we've all been following your career very closely ever since. We watched what was happening in NWA Lone Star, NWA Houston, Branded Outlaw. We followed with anticipation when you and Tim Storm were battling. It was basically a race to get to the World's Heavyweight Championship. Can you tell us a little bit about the yesteryears of the NWA, as that was where you kind of had your bread and butter for so often before Billy Corgan purchased the NWA?
Well, absolutely, and I make no bones about it. I don't mind talking about the previous ownership as well as the current ownership. Both, I guess you would call them regimes, have treated me very, very well. So I would say nothing negative about either one, just to get that out in front. But man, yeah, I owed a whole lot to the I guess what we'll refer to as the old NWA, right? They gave me the platform to hone my skills and to become the professional wrestler that I am today. So I've got nothing but great things to say about them, man. If you look at who I was with when I was in tag teams then, Ray Rowe and obviously Iron Man Rob Conway, both which have had stellar careers and made me a better person and a better professional wrestler, teaming with both those guys. and just the ability to travel Texas, man, mainly, and wrestle all the people that I was fortunate enough to wrestle. It really was, I guess you would say that where the seeds were planted for me to turn into what I am today. You know, a lot of people don't know this, and I didn't talk about it much in my early career, but when Rod Conway and I won the NWA World Tag Team Championships over in Japan, that was only about my 32nd match in professional. Wow. So you got to understand, my first tour in New Japan, I hadn't even had 50 matches yet. And here I am wrestling with the very best professional wrestlers in the world. Now, I do feel like I belong there then. I feel like I still belong there now. But I had some really good people I was working with, and Rob Conway and Bruce Tharp and those guys that really helped me succeed, even though I was extremely green at that time. And I'll forever be thankful to those guys.
But now I'm actually going to point something out. Is DK looks like he's actually in a good mood tonight. Like that's a good mood. That's almost like a good mood face for DK. DK, are you in a good mood tonight or what?
I wasn't sure you guys were going to let me talk. Yeah, I'm actually in a very good mood because, of course, you know, Jax has just always been one of my favorite wrestlers, as Jay pointed out earlier. I always thought that he had the potential to be a world champion. Of course, that came true. I thought the same about Kevin. That came true. And so, right now, I'm overly honored because I'm on a podcast with two of what I think are the best professional wrestlers out there. And even though Kevin's retired, but, you know, they're both wonderful guys. If I can, break my character here for a minute, I just so appreciate Kevin and everything that, we've done together and been through, and watching him, as the world junior heavyweight champion, watching him be the Adam Pearce of the junior heavyweight, where he was wrestling all across the country. I still say to this day, he had the best world junior heavyweight title reign of anybody since back in the Crockett times. Jax is a big, powerful man who looks like a pro wrestler. He fights like a pro wrestler. You just always enjoy the big man fight. For those that don't know me on a personal level, I don't like to travel. I hate being in cars. It's always been that way since I was a little kid. And I drove 5 hours to get to San Antonio to spend the night so I could watch him challenge for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, and he won the title that night. And I got the picture to prove it. And it's just, so yeah, when you say I look happy, I am happy. I think that's just a great thing. I think we're talking to two great guys, and I'm certainly glad to see Jax developing more in the current version of the NWA. I've really enjoyed his promos and his development there. I can't believe he's gotten better than what I originally appreciated so much of.
Well, I mean, that's for certain, because the Jax Dane we had on here 8 years ago was, as you pointed out, was still learning the ropes. But it's been very enjoyable to watch your maturation over the years. I mean, anybody who's been following you, they could have watched you in New Japan. They could have seen you in Ohio Valley. They could have seen you on Impact. Of course, your debut in the NWA, the new NWA, was right there, right back with Tim Storm. It's almost like you guys were an old married couple, because the feud before the new ownership, when you guys were racing for that 10 pounds of gold, and then your joining of the NWA roster, they put you right back there with Tim. What are your thoughts on Tim Storm and your experiences wrestling with him?
Well, I mean, Tim Storm's a heavy hitter, man. It's never been my MO to be negative in any sense of the word, but Storm, you really can't be negative in a sense. He's a great human, He's a great professional wrestler. He's a great ambassador for the NWA. He's somebody that you don't mind having in your corner when it comes to being affiliated with certain companies and what have you. But I do want to point out with this new version you guys have talked about of Jax Dane, Tim Storm, he never really beat me for the NWA World Title. If you were there for that, Rob Conway hit me with the World Title and Tim Storm fell on top of me. So, I mean, say what you want, but, you know, and then when I wrestled Tim, when I debuted with the NWA, a couple of chair shots later, he's on top again. So you never know where that feud's going to end up, but I always like climbing in the ring with him. And, you know, when you go fight Tim Storm, you better bring your lunch bell.
Hey, you know, Jax, I actually can relate to you on what it's like to not actually really lose your world championship, not have actually lost in a clean way. So I feel your pain there, man. One of the things I'm jumping right in because I don't care. I cannot tell you how pumped up I was when I started to see this version that I don't know what to call it, you know, but like I saw a shift in your character on the NWA, and honestly, there's a little bit of a frustration, but it's all personal because I like you. That's more than it. I'm like, I just like to see my guys do well, and you probably know what I mean by that. Absolutely. But no, I was just like, man, I want to see more from Jax. And once you cut your first kind of promo in your current kind of in what you're doing right now, because I don't want to say character because it's kind of still an extension of really who you are. It's just a little more of you.
Hey,
where did this come from? This is like the best part of the show. We've been saying this for weeks now. Just your character and what you're portraying on there and the interest that you're carrying. Like you and Pope so far have had the most character development on the NWA so far. So where did this come from? How did this happen?
Well, I mean, I'm just dipping my toe into where I'm going with this thing right now. And just to be blatantly honest, it is levels of frustration. It is. You guys said it, I spent 8 to 10 years doing everything right, going to training, staying in shape, making the drives, right? You do everything. You hug babies, you shake hands, you don't say anything negative. You say, yes, sir. You do all that respectful bullshit. And then where does it get you?
Yep.
That makes sense?
No, it's great.
I'm really going to be able to peel back some layers of the onion, man.
That's exciting.
Really feel and let them see really what's been brewing inside for quite some time now. And the great thing about the NWA, and I do wholeheartedly mean this, is they point you in a direction, but they don't tell you how to get there. So I'm going to be able to get to where I want to go, how I want to get there. And with that being said, man, I think you'll be surprised at some of the things that will begin to come out of my mouth. And like you said, it is just an extension of exactly who I am now, because I spent so long doing it the right way, right? Doing it like they told you should do it. And that didn't work for me the way I thought it would. So now I'm going to do it my way. And if it don't work out, then at least it's my way, right? At least I can look, shit, guys, I did it the way I wanted to, and it still didn't work.
You know, I think we're starting to see some of the benefits to that. I mean, obviously, you're in a tag team that, you know, should have been challenging for the World Tag Team Championship.
I was in the best tag team in the world, period. We were as good as anybody in the world. You can't make me feel any different about that.
I agree.
Feel any different than that?
6'4" juggernaut that can go to town, go to work, stay in shape, bust their ass, do things right. Just didn't work out. So now you see some innovation start to come out. You know, it's funny. I never was really that guy that would say, oh, I'm the best, or I'm this, or I'm that, because I was taught that's not how you do it. But then you see so many people out there saying, oh, I'm the greatest, or watch this gift, or I can do this. And you realize, holy shit, they believe their own bullshit. People believe their own bullshit. And when people believe your own bullshit, you can accomplish great things.
That would be a great, I'm a great example of that.
Well, hey, kind of
I think you guys where the frustration comes from. So now I have a boss who I don't get along with. I make no bones about it. I don't get along with Billy Corgan. I don't. I mean, you can tell with our interactions on screen, I don't get along with him. But he knows that I'm an asset to his company. So how far will he let me push the envelope, right?
So I want to jump in. Okay, Jax, I think you had maybe one of my favorite lines of this current rendition of the NWA. So you're doing an interview. I think it was with Gary Horn, wasn't it, Jay?
Yeah.
And you said, well, Trevor Murdoch called me out.
He did.
And I thought, and I said, wait a minute. When did he call out Trevor? When did he call out Jax? And you said, when he said, I want to take on the biggest and the baddest. Oh, dude, I laughed. I laughed so hard, and we had such a good time because that was so good. And for me, that was a huge turning point. And I was like, man, this is going to get good, man. It was truth, but it was so creative, man.
It was truth.
Mike Knox. I mean, I'm a huge Mike Knox guy, but if he thinks the beating he put on Trevor at the end of Hard Times was something, at the end of By Any Means Necessary, man, I got news for you guys. There's levels to this shit, and I'm going to bring it. I mean, when I finally get my chance with Trevor Murdoch, it'll be a level of violence. I mean, I just had a war with probably the most dangerous guy in the NWA. 6'6", 260 pounds, former military, one of the legit baddest men in professional wrestling. And I just went nose to nose with him, and I did what I had to do to win. Did I beat him? Maybe.
You beat him.
I beat him, but I did it how I wanted to do it, the way I needed to do it, because he's a juggernaut. He is. I mean, look at his resume. Look at his career. I mean, he's decorated in all facets of life. So I'm at the point in my career where I think the last pay-per-view title was something that was just ideal for where I'm at, by any means necessary. I mean, that's what we had to do, and that's what we did. So, I mean, we can keep going. Where do we turn the faucet off? I don't know.
I love it, man. So I will say this, Jax, I do have a request, and it does not have to be met, but it can't hurt. You know, the best thing you can do is just put it out there. So one of my favorite things is when two big dudes are in the ring and they're just circling and yelling at each other. To me, there's just nothing more gratifying than that. So when you get in there with Trevor Murdoch, man, I'm hoping I can see two big bad dudes getting loud, getting rowdy, and it don't have to be pretty. Please, by all means, I want to just see skin tearing off, man.
I mean, circling. What the hell is that? I mean, I got one gear, man. It's straightforward, especially now. And you won't see me making side steps or circling ever again in all of my wrestling career. Straightforward, man. That's the only direction. That's the only gear I've got now.
I think you and Trevor Murdoch, I mean, I think that could be match of the year type stuff.
It's a match made in heaven. I mean, it is what it is. But Trevor Murdoch knows that's a big test. I mean, he knows. And to Trevor's credit, man, he won't run from that fight either. I mean, he'll stick his nose right in there. So that's what makes it so exciting to me when you see two big heavyweights that are willing to do what a lot of guys aren't willing to do, and then stick your nose right in there and eat punches. That's what Trevor does. That's what Trevor does best, is take a beating, right? And that's what I do best, is give a beating. So let's
see.
Our pals over at This Is Pro Wrestling, they do the post show for the NWA. Gary Horn, Will Martin, Rob Stinson. I love those guys. I consider them brothers, consider them family. Dr. Rob would always come on and kind of be that advocate for, the world's heavyweight champion, Nick Aldis. He was the advocate for Strictly Business. And I kind of feel like we're the advocate for you. I feel like we're your booster club, if you will. And one of the things that I keep thinking about when you do get this match with Trevor Murdoch, whenever it happens, I mean, it's going to happen. Hasn't happened yet, but when it does happen, You know, we just watched you take somebody you considered a brother, somebody that you traveled the roads with. You took him to hell. You beat the crap out of him. And like you said, he was a juggernaut. He wasn't a sitting, you know, an easy target. You took him to hell. You beat the crap out of the guy. What are you going to do to Trevor Murdoch?
I mean, what I always do. I mean, you know, I really don't want to turn into the guy that talks a lot and doesn't have a lot of action. But I think right now my actions have been backing up the words that I've been saying. So when and if I choose Trevor Murdoch, I mean, let's don't get it. Let's don't lose sight of some stuff here. Let's get it all out on the table. Former North American, former national, former world tag team, and former world champ, right? What's missing from that?
I mean,
well, I would say nothing, but I guess the TV title's not on there.
TV title's not on there, right?
Sure.
Right.
I mean, Tyrus is a bona fide champ, right?
I mean,
I can say that too.
For sure.
Cash in for whatever I want, right? So
that is true.
Cash in on Tyrus. And then win 7 in a row. And then what happens?
You get the world title shot.
You get the world champion.
So, I mean, it's the ball is totally in my court right now. 100% in my court. And Corrigan can't take that away from me, right? He can't. I earned that. I earned that in the Champion Series. And
so you know what I like?
If it hadn't been for Crimson, Anthony Mayweather, I would probably already be world champ. But we know what happened there. I don't want to rehash it. But that may not even be the path. That may not even be the path. The path may be through the world TV title, through the TV title to the world title. Because once you win the TV title, if you win 7 in a row,
you're
you
going
get in there with Tyrus. You going to be able to pick that man up and slam him?
Man, I picked up bigger.
Well, I actually like.
Because there are a lot of people who would pop if you slammed him. Probably everybody who's following us on the podcast tonight.
I mean, I don't want to say I'm the strongest guy in professional wrestling because that's absolutely not true. But I throw a little bit of weight around. If that were to present itself as an opportunity, I like my chances. Yes, I can pick him up.
It's funny because you kept saying the path, and that reminded me of that excellent tag team you were with Ray Rowe back in the day, the Path of Resistance, because you guys were that path. Like everyone who opposed you kind of fell down to that path. And you know, one of the questions we have in the chat from our pal James H. Jackson, he says, what do you think, Jax, that makes the NWA stand out from all the other wrestling promotions right now?
Well, I think just right out of the gates, man, the first most notable thing is a bunch of grown-ass men and women wrestling. I think that's the first thing right out of the gates. And that's no disrespect to anybody, because to me, professional wrestling is much like Baskin Robbins, okay? You got 31 flavors. There's room for just about everything in professional wrestling, in my opinion. I just know what I like and what I do well, and the NWA is a great fit for me for that.
You said the Baskin Robbins analogy, and I use that so often because I think it's so accurate. Because you can go just about anywhere with wrestling and find something that'll fit a certain niche, a certain a certain brand, a certain fixing, a certain style of wrestling. But the NWA certainly has a lock on a roster with guys who are about 6'4" and bigger, who are about 260 pounds or bigger. And I mean, you're not alone in this world. There are guys in that venue with you who are same size. I mean, they're not Jax Dane, that's for damn sure. But you're with a group of super heavyweights. How does that feel compared to where you've wrestled in other places?
Well, it feels good, but to me, it's as a wrestler, you really don't see, because I do what I do, right? and it doesn't matter who I'm wrestling. I'm a straightforward, boost the asses type guy, and it doesn't matter if I'm wrestling a big guy or a small guy. You're gonna get the same Jax Dane. And so I wrestled in promotions where there's some smaller guys, and let's don't make a mistake. Small does not mean not tough or can't go or can't go nose to nose, because that's not the case. I mean, right now, if you look at probably, I hate to even say this because I don't like anybody, especially right now, but if I'm picking somebody I'm really following and enjoying following, if I could be a fan of NWA, Colby Corino. I love watching him. I could watch him wrestle anybody at any time. I mean, I like his attitude. I like his style. And he's fun for me to watch if I'm breaking away and watching just as a fan. I love watching Colby Corino wrestle. That's just what I like. So I don't want to get confused with saying, oh, small guys aren't, because they are. Just for me and what I like and where I feel like I belong, the NWA presents that because the landscape is big.
Well, I kind of want to look at.
Go ahead.
I kind of want to look at somebody else right now. So, however you get Trevor Murdoch, whether you cash in your opportunity against him directly, or whether you go for the TV title and get your 7, when you become world champion again, obviously one of the people you're going to have to face out there is the former world champion Nick Aldis. And then a couple of other top contenders out there, Thomas Latimer, Chris Adonis. I mean, what kind of matches do you think you can have with these gentlemen, especially Aldis?
Well, I mean, I've been in the ring with Bram or Thomas Latimer. Man, he's a warrior. It was fantastic. I've wrestled Chris Adonis. Fantastic. Aldis is I've never wrestled Nick in any form or capacity, not tag, not 6-man, not battle royal, I think, nothing. I don't think we've ever shared the ring together in a competitive format. And Nick presents some crazy, unique challenges, man, especially because he can almost match your strength and your power, but technically he's Nick Aldis. He's the former world champ, right? I mean, technicality is not my strong point. So, I mean, that presents a challenge to me, and Nick Aldis does, but it excites me too, because the great thing about big heavyweights is if I don't care who it is, if I catch you, it's over. So that always gives me, no matter what, a puncher's chance, I guess you would say, right? If it were boxing. Aldis is a unique matchup for me, man. I don't want to. I mean, obviously, I think I'd walk in there and I'd punch him in the face. It's just, how could he weather that storm? And if he weathered that storm, and how long did we go? I mean, obviously, I'm not stupid. The longer it goes, the better for him, right? So, I mean, I think everybody on the planet would agree on that. So, yeah, Aldis would be a great matchup for me. I would love to entertain that, either as champ or challenger.
So I actually like what you were talking about when you were talking about the television title and really just what that path would look like. I actually think that's actually really, really interesting, would be the best way I could say it. For the main purpose is that, number one, it would add a notch into your belt that, just based on hearing you, you want. But it also shows that you're running through 7 people, and you're going into the world championship match with momentum. But it also says that I'm a guy that's not afraid to go out and earn it, even though really and truly you deserve it. So I think that's pretty good.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think, you know, anybody that has followed or follows me, they know one thing. I mean, I grew up country, man. I grew up on the farm, grew up in a small town with about population 300 or so, 400 people, in a single wide trailers where we started out. And my father, man, he knew nothing but hard work. Nothing but hard work. From day one of my life, he's known nothing but hard work. And he set such a fucking example of what a human being should be that I'll earn it, man. You give me opportunity and I'll earn it, man. I'll put in the work. That's the work part is easy. The work, because that's all I know. That's all I've ever done, man. I mean, I work to play college basketball, right? You don't get to play college basketball without work. It takes work. It takes work to be one of the best high school players in the state. It takes work to get to college. It takes work to get your college paid for. And then on top of that, my corporate career, man, if we're really going to pull the curtain back, is I'm working 40, 50, 60 hours a week for a major manufacturer, traveling all over the country, but I'm still putting in the drives and the gym and traveling on the weekends and making the flights. I can assure you the word work is not something that I'm scared of. So, yeah, I mean, if the path is win the TV title and work through 7 people to get a shot at the world title, man, I love that. Let's do it, because I've got the confidence that the work ethic is unparalleled, man. I mean, people have no idea the levels of work that goes into this shit.
So one thing that I have a question about, and I'm just trying to get to the psyche of Jax Dane, because the picture that was on the beginning of the stream, it was supposed to be the video clip of the 70th anniversary show. The NWA, ahead of Nick Aldis and Cody Rhodes, brought out all the world heavyweight champions that were on the card. So, I mean, we saw Dory Funk Jr., we saw Colt Boom Boom Cabana, we saw Blue Demon Jr., Jeff Jarrett, the list goes on, Tim Storm, yourself. And that's really the first time the NWA acknowledged some of your past accomplishments. But then, a few years pass and all that stuff kind of seems to fall by the wayside. They don't acknowledge you on Power initially. The announcers say, yes, he's a former world champion, but they didn't really acknowledge the fact of what you meant to the company in those early days before Billy Corgan's purchase, and what you continue to bring to the table now. Does that also put a chip on your shoulder? Does that make you a little bit more frustrated in your current role with the company?
Absolutely not. And here's why. And I'm a firm believer in what have you done for me lately in life. This is the way the world works, right? So the NWA gave me an opportunity to come in under the new regime with no promises, no guarantees, no nothing. And it worked out well for me. And now, almost every time they talk about Jax Dane, what do they say? North American, National, World Tag Team, and World Heavyweight Champion. So, to Kevin's point, I feel like I had to re-earn that recognition, but that's okay. And I don't hold that against anybody except Kyle Davis, because he refuses to say it on every interview. So now I'm to the point where I will make him say that before I even speak to him. But so no, it doesn't. Because there's a lot of champions before me that don't get the recognition that they deserve. And there'll be champions after me that won't get the recognition they deserve. So I'm not bitter about that. Is it a chip on my shoulder? Chip is not the right word. It's a motivating factor. It's a hey, I belong here too type thing.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, even though I haven't won the championships yet, in the new regime, there's a lot of gratification internally showing that I belong. Not as equally gratifying as winning the NWA World Title from Tenzan in San Antonio in front of 1,000 people and becoming the NWA World Champion. Probably from, if you looked at his resume and you compared his accomplishments, one of the most decorated NWA World Champions that's ever carried the 10 pounds of gold in Tenzan. I mean, if you look at everything he's done in his career, to be able to earn the responsibility to carry the company and have it passed from a guy like Tenzan to yourself, that winning it from him means as much to me as winning it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And you like you said, Tenzan's a former IWGP champion, has held the IWGP tag titles, of course, held the NWA tag titles at your expense. But man, I mean, you sure did get your come-ups when you beat him for that title. Bobby Petito in our chat asks a question: have you ever wrestled against Shane Taylor? And then I'm going to add to that: what do you think about a guy like Shane Taylor? Would you like to see him come to the NWA?
I would love to see Shane Taylor. The bigger, the better. Bring him. Let's do it. Get him here. I mean, that's competition. Yes, I've wrestled Shane Taylor. I wrestled him in NWA Lone Star in his debut match at NWA Lone Star, and he beat me.
Man, I don't know. I was there when Shane Taylor started coming to NWA Lone Star. I didn't know if the ring was going to be able to hold up. Because, man, when that guy would drop a leg, I thought the building was going to come down. Yeah. I would love to see that match.
Shane's a special athlete, man. I mean, I think, he's just a special athlete. He's a special person. I mean, if we break character for a little bit, he's one of my very, very closest friends in professional wrestling through Ray Rowe. I mean, you don't spend that much time with somebody in Texas, and Ray Rowe and I lived together for a long time. I would love to have Shane Taylor, especially with the unfortunate circumstances that a lot of the ROH guys are finding themselves in right now. Bring. I mean, we had Mike Bennett and Taven over. Shane Taylor, his crew. I would love to see that. I don't speak for the NWA by any stretch, but I'm an open door policy type guy. You want to come get this ass whooping, come on. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. But yeah, Shane is a special athlete.
Yeah, and I would actually, sorry to interrupt on that, but yeah, I think I agree. I think Shane Taylor is a huge, huge asset to any company that he would be a part of, and it would be a huge level up for the National Wrestling Alliance to get a guy like that, because again, he is a very special talent on every level, and so that would be really exciting to see.
Well, and that's the great thing about the National Wrestling Alliance is you've seen Billy Corgan be willing to work with almost any and everybody that I don't want to say deserves an opportunity, because what warrants deserving an opportunity, but if there is a way he can work with somebody that brings assets to the table and helps the business, he's open to it. So I mean, that's, if he's doing anything right, that's one of the things.
In addition to Shane Taylor, another gentleman that kind of finds himself out there now, somebody you should also know well from your Texas time, that's Keith Lee. So is that somebody you'd be interested in facing? Have you faced him before?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever wrestled Keith in a singles match, but myself and Ray Rowe and let me think. I had a 6-man in Texas at the old Branded Outlaw Wrestling, not the Branded Outlaw Wrestling now. 2 totally different companies run by 2 totally different people with different sets of expectations. The initial Branded Outlaw Wrestling was a super special place to work and wrestle and be a part of. With that being said, I want to say it was Shane and Keith and Moonshine Mantell against me and at the time the War Machine, the Viking Race.
Well, just because I have access to Cage Match and I looked it up real quick, you actually spent some time with Keith Lee. The Path of Resistance faced Keith Lee and Shane Taylor at NWA Houston. Keith Lee, teaming with Tim Storm, wrestled against you and Scott Summers. And then in River City Wrestling, early in your career, you defeated Keith Lee and Numero Dos, who I don't know who that is, but I mean, you believe it or not, I know it's might be hard to believe, but you've shared that ring a couple of times with Mr. Lee there.
And Keith is as special an athlete as Shane Taylor.
Yeah, two totally different types of athletes, but yeah, certainly both two special guys. I never had the privilege to wrestle Shane Taylor. I did have the privilege of wrestling Keith Lee a couple times, and it was definitely I didn't know I could be thrown that high in the air. So
That is for sure.
So
hey, we got another question in the chat from Bobby. He wants to know if you've ever wrestled against or would like to wrestle against Brody King.
I've never wrestled Brody, but of course I would love that. I mean, the bigger, the stronger, the better, the more I want that match, right? I mean, that's when you fancy yourself as someone that is one of the biggest, the strongest, the baddest, that wrestles that style, you want to wrestle other people with that type of physicality, and he absolutely fits that mold, man. I mean, he as from the outside looking in and watching his career from a distance, he's one of those. So of course I would love that.
I, for one, thought you guys were going to lock horns at the Crockett Cup 2019, but it just didn't happen. But it very much felt like you and at the time your tag team partner Crimson were going to get to that next round with PCO and Brody King, and I think that match would have been stellar. I wish that could have happened. I got to see Brody King this past Monday at New Japan Strong, and he wrestled against another guy who's just a hard hitter in Tono. I'm going to mispronounce his name. I'm just going to say the last name, Ishii.
Right on.
Toromaru Ishii, and that guy is just a real fun to watch too. And him and Brody just practically killed themselves in the ring.
Right on.
And putting you in a match with either one of those guys, I know it would be brutal. I know it would be stiff. I know it would. I would probably go like this the whole time because I would watching two men beat the living crap out of each other. But I really feel like these are matches that I hope are lined up for you. I hope these matches come your way because, you know, Trevor Murdoch doesn't call you out on an NWA broadcast as the biggest and the baddest if you're not that guy.
Well, I'm willing to test my mettle with anyone, right? I mean, let's see. Let's put it out there and see where the cards fall. And the great thing about combat sports, whether is winning matters. It does. But fighting is so much more fun, right? Let's go see. I mean, don't run from anything. Let's just go that was the great thing about the match with Crimson is let's just go stick our nose in it and see what happens, right? Yeah, did I take some shortcuts? Yeah. Was it against the rules? Nope. So came out on top, and I'm willing to do that.
Now, I know that there has been no match announcement yet. I know the NWA is very closed-lipped about what's going to happen for this upcoming pay-per-view on December the 4th. But what can you tell us about Hard Times number 2? I mean, we've got a world title match announced. We've got a TV title match announced. We got a tag team title match announced. We got a women's championship match announced. But what can you tell us about Hard Times and what are your hopes for Hard Times 2?
Well, the great thing about watching Hard Times is you might see me cash in because I can do that at any time. So if the time's right, I'll do that. If the time's not right, I won't do that. But the great thing about Hard Times is the matches that have been announced are over the top tier matches. I mean, that world heavyweight title is going to be I think what these kids today call a banger. Is that term days, Kevin? I don't know, but
pass me by, my friend.
I mean, that's two grown ass men going to step in the ring and really go to war. Because, like I said about Trevor Murdoch, is that he's not going to run from any fight. It doesn't mean he's always going to win them, but he ain't going to run from them, and so that's going to make that a battle. And I mean, I don't necessarily condone this, but I understand it. Mike put his hands on Trevor's kid. man, you put your hands on my 16-year-old and you're at whoop. I don't care who you are or where we're at. So, I mean, that's going to be – there's some underlying stuff there that's going to really make that what it is. And then you mentioned the women's title, man. I'm as excited for that because, I mean, Camille is an exceptional specimen.
Yep.
In a weird way, Camille reminds me of a early champion Jax Dane, in a sense.
That's high praise.
She's bigger and stronger and faster than just about everybody she wrestles, right? So she's just a specimen. But you can never discount Melina because look at her resume. Look at all she's accomplished. You don't carry her resume and not be worthy or have the ability to win the NWA women's title. So, you know, that's
you'd be hard pressed to find a wrestler as resourceful as Melina as well.
That's my new.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal that. Jax Dane is resourceful. Baby, rubbing alcohol, whatever it takes. Any means that.
That was great, by the way.
I never
Rubbing
saw
alcohol was great. I felt that in my toes.
That's
Jax, I had just kind of a question that was on my mind. You know, at this point, you know, since I've seen you, as far as our first dealings, I've seen you in teams pretty much throughout your career. You had the singles run as champion with the NWA, and yes, you've had some success as a singles wrestler. This current last breakup between, I guess, it's a kind of a high school word for it, but separating of ways, business with Crimson. Is this the end of the Jax Dane tag team era? Are we seeing Jax Dane moving fully into full on singles competition, thinking wholly about himself? You know, is that where we're at right now? Because to me personally, once you started cutting these promos, dude, this was, to me, promos are huge because it's what builds up, it's what generates the interest for a match. And I can tell you that I've loved you from day one, but I've never been this interested in what Jax Dane's gonna do. Is this the beginning of a long singles run, or are you done with doing the team thing? And if so, you know, what are you projecting in terms of just like what of the future of this the Dane event?
Man, I feel like that's a little bit of a loaded question in a sense that a good question. I don't mean that in a negative way. But what you have to understand is I'm at a point in my career where I'm going to do what I want to do. And if I wake up tomorrow and I decide I want to win the NWA World Tag Team titles with my championship series win, hell, I may pick a partner and do that. I mean, I'm out there right now, Kevin. I'm doing what I want to do, how I want to do it. But there's no more Jax Dane tag team partner standing in the background. Right? Think about who I've teamed with.
Yep.
Think about why I may have been uncomfortable in some of those scenarios. So
right.
Now I'm going to do it my way. And my way is going to be really uncomfortable for a lot of people.
I'm taking that as if Kevin came out of retirement, that you guys are the next NWA tag team champions. So that's on you, Kev.
Hey, listen, I'll carry the beating. You can clean house, and we can take as many titles home as we want.
Is what it is, but you're right. The focus ain't event. That's it.
I want to jump in real quick too. Just something that I find very interesting about this current scenario, like where things have been going with you lately, is that really no one's having a conversation about you doing anything else really than the world title. And to me, that's huge. That tells me how much impact this current run you've got going has had. Because on the show, to me, as soon as the promo started coming out, as soon as the kind of the shift happened, I was like, there's nothing else but straight to the top. for this current era for what you're doing right now. And again, I'm more of making a statement really than I am asking a question. But dude, like that's a big deal. Like to just, as soon as the shift happened, we were all not having any conversation. But man, Jax should be going for the world title. And all we've talked about pretty much tonight is Trevor Murdoch and when that match is going to happen. And if you did decide, to take the television title route, to us it almost seems like a foregone conclusion that you're going to run right through Tyrus, run right through 7 matches, and you're still going to end up in that world title scene. Again, that's where we're at from our perspective.
With another trophy collected and another notch on my belt, another skin on the wall.
Yep.
I mean, and I think just to kind of punctuate what Kevin was saying is I find it very inspiring, awesome as a fan of yours that nobody's talking about, Jax Dane has got to go do this or Jax Dane's got to go do that to prove himself. At this point, everybody who's a fan of this product, who's watching the NWA religiously, knows that it's not a matter of if Jax Dane is ready for that World's Heavyweight Championship. It's when he's ready for that World's Heavyweight Championship. And I think that speaks volumes about the amount of respect you've earned and the amount of respect that you've basically taken. Because everyone that's watching this show, I mean, a year ago we were talking about how Pope might be the breakthrough star of the show. Pope has got all the right tools. Pope looks great. And I'm not taking anything away from the Pope. I still want to see him challenge for that 10 pounds of gold too. But now it's not just one guy or 2 guys. It's like you're there, Pope is there. At some point, Aldis is going to be back in that picture. You just know. And Trevor, I mean, he's got his handfuls on December the 4th when he faces Mike Knox. But there's like 4 or 5 legitimate challenges for that 10 pounds of gold. And the fact that you've earned that and nobody can take that away from you. I mean, again, I think you used the word.
So let me cut you off real quick, Jay Kyle. And I don't mean to cut you off, but the question earlier in the night said, what makes the NWA different than everywhere else? Where else are there 4 or 5 other contenders for the world title where it makes sense?
I will say when we're talking about Pope, for the longest time, I would say he got the most praise on our show, especially in terms of just entertainment value. I find it really interesting that you actually leapfrogged him. I mean, in what felt like a matter of like a couple weeks, at least on this show. Again, this is more of me just kind of giving you some encouragement about the latest and what you've been doing and how really just interesting it is. And then also, now good thing I'm 1,700 miles away. I'm going to ask one of the questions from the chat that I found kind of interesting and I thought was kind of funny. But I will say that I agree with it. The guy was asking about the big right hand that Crimson laid on you. Was that a 10-pound fully loaded potato or the greatest work of art ever? Before you answer the question, first of all, I'm not going to disclose my address or location. But I will say this, off the record, out of character, as we might say, regardless, the entertainment value of that moment was great. It really was. Like for me, again, a true sign of a great wrestler is not just someone who can go out and steamroll, but who can do the intangible things like cut a good promo. Like when we're trying to get a story over. That's my wife in the background, my ballerina wife. Hello. No, but when we're trying to get a storyline over, we're trying to get a point across. Like the intangibles of like a good sell at the right time at the right moment. Again, Jax, this is stuff that you're just doing everything right, dude. Like even in that, I'm like, man, the guy is entertaining me getting knocked out. But the fan, our guy in the chat's just asking, was it a fully loaded potato or was it a great work of art ever? My guess is going to be that Crimson ain't going to be pulling no punches on you, brother.
Crimson is 6'6" and he weighs 160 pounds. And he's trained on how to whoop people's ass. Okay. I mean, he did what he did. That's why he got alcohol in the eyes. Because I knew. Yes. I mean, come on, man. I mean, no. I mean, absolutely. It is what it is, man. It's.
Well, I tell people all the time, of course, out in the civilized world, people ask me questions all the time about wrestling, and you get a lot of the same questions, but then you might actually have a serious conversation with someone. And I always tell people, I'm like, look, man, in football, you're out there trying to hit each other as hard as you can. That's just what you're doing.
Right.
Like, that's part of the deal. But there is an etiquette. There is a certain way you play the game, and wrestling's no different. But when things get personal, when things get like what is probably between you and Crimson, man, like, look, the time for fun and games is over, and we're trying to go out there and see who can hit who the hardest. And I think a lot of times the people in the stands don't really understand that.
Well,
I do want to point out one thing real quick. The guy that was asking the question was there live at the show and saw it live.
Then he should be able to answer the question himself.
Yeah, well, he said the entire front row, but believes what you're saying there. I want to throw two names out to you, though.
And to the point that Kevin just made, and I haven't announced this anywhere. I've not said this, but 10 days ago, I had my left eardrum completely rebuilt. 2-hour surgery. They had to cut my ear from the top of the lobe to the bottom of the lobe, and they literally rebuilt my eardrum from scratch. Because of how physical this job can be. And now I will be cleared to wrestle hard times, not a huge surgery to even have to worry about. But to Kevin's point, yeah, this shit is real sometimes.
It's funny, Jax, you mentioned the ear. Like, I have a permanent ringing in my ears, and in my day-to-day life, people try to talk to me. And I'm like, look, you're going to have to speak up, man. And they're like, aren't you too young? And I'm like, I've been punched in the face thousands of times.
Yeah, I say what to my poor wife 100 times a day. But, yeah, and I mean, if you tuned in to the slap fight that Crimson and I had, I mean, there's no way you fake that.
No. So, funny story, Jax. Of course,
DK,
obviously, no.
Okay, you've been talking.
Go ahead, DK.
I got two
DK,
people.
Go ahead, brother.
I got two people who I want to throw out there for Jax. I want to know his thoughts on these two people. First one, I'll give you both, and you can comment. First one, another guy that's currently going to be free here in another 60 days or whatever. Killer Cross, and a man who's also that this podcast supports and likes a lot, current MLW heavyweight champion, Alexander Hammerstone. And so I want to get your thoughts on those two men.
Well, I'll start with Hammerstone. Don't know him, never met him. Physically looks like $1 million, so I know he puts in the work, man. That's important to me. Guys that are in shape and trains as hard as he does. Really, and I don't mean this in any sort of negative fashion, but I really didn't start paying attention until he started with Jacob Fatu to see what they were going to do. That's when I really started watching to pay attention almost as a fan. And man, I think he had a pretty bad ankle injury. So the fact that he was able to perform and win and carry their title and be their guy, a lot of respect for that guy. I think he's great from what I've seen. And then Killer Cross, man, I mean, I don't even know what to say about the guy that hasn't been said. Everything from his facials to his appearance to his attitude to the way he works to the hard work that he puts in as well. I mean, he's an example for a lot of us on how we should be carrying ourselves you know, solely in respect to the sport of professional wrestling.
You know, we bring up Hammerstone, and one of my favorite, one of the things that I emphasize a lot on the show and really try to drive home when we talk about wrestlers is really the ability to be well-rounded. And again, Hammerstone is one of those guys that I really believe has a lot of that. Not only he's big, he's in shape, he's a guy that if you look at him, and again, you can relate to all these things. You know, no matter what you try to do, it's gonna be a long night when you get out there in the ring with him. But also he carries the entertainment value.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think you guys have a lot in common is that it's not just big, bad, in shape, look the part, but you guys are entertaining, man. Like it's fun.
I appreciate you saying that, and by no means am I comparing Hammerstone or myself or Cross or any of these guys to a guy like Batista. Okay, that's not what I'm doing in a sense, but there's a lot of pressure on a guy like Hammerstone in a sense that with the way he looks and the way he carries himself, he's almost either got to be at the top or close to the very top, or there really ain't a spot for him because you don't want to follow him, in my opinion, right? So, like they said about Batista one time, you're either going to be main eventing or it's going to be hard for you to find a job. And I think he's a star like that. That's just my opinion. I could be way off base to what a lot of people think, but just when I see him, that's what I think.
Well, I mean, it's always a pleasure to have you on. It's been a very long time, but it's always, you know, when I see you post on social media and the positive attitude that you have about everything and the work ethic and, you know, regardless of what any of the detractors may say, we're so excited to see you in this spot in the NWA where these opportunities that are opening up for you. I mean, you just said it. You might be the next world champion. Hell, you might be the next TV champion. And I can't stress enough that whatever direction you go, you're going to have fans cheering for you. And I know that's probably not what Mr. Billy Corgan wants, but I think it's hard to deny somebody of your caliber, not only as a person inside of the ring, but outside of the ring. And I think I could speak for the three of us in saying that we're just so ecstatic to see your growth, your development, your opportunities in the NWA. And we just can't wait to see what's next for you.
Well, I'm excited to be in the NWA. It's where I belong. It's home. I love it there. It allows me to continue chasing my corporate dream as well, which is just a bigger dream of mine. Is being a world champion, is climbing the corporate ladder and being a vice president or a CFO or a CEO of a major manufacturing company at some point. And I'll get there too. It's just. Shit takes time and it takes a lot of work. But I appreciate you guys having me on. And Kevin, man, tons of respect to you. I know when I first started in Texas, you were further up the food chain and you treated me like $1 million from day one. There's a lot of things you'll forget in this world as life goes on, but you will never forget how somebody makes you feel. And you always made me feel fantastic, and I'm thankful for that, especially when I was sometimes in a position of power that I may not should have been in that early in my career, and you always made me feel like $1 million, man. I'm grateful for that. And J. Cal, man, you have always, for almost 10 years now, been supportive. DK, you were, man, many times I've seen you in the Texas crowd, and then you being there the night I won the world title. I'm grateful to you guys as well. And I think in this world, I think we come up short a lot of times telling people either how we feel about them or making sure people understand, because it's not the cool thing to do, right? Because we get so tied up. But I'm grateful to all three of you guys as well. And I'm happy to see all you guys succeeding.
Well, that's awesome, man. And my hope is, you know, I know we're getting towards the end of the year. So I do hope that you have a great holiday season and, you know, Thanksgiving. I hope you kill a couple of turkeys. I hope Christmas is kind to you. I hope New Year's is great. I hope in 2022, if we don't see it earlier, I want to see that 10 pounds of gold on your shoulder, or even the TV title. I'll take either one. I'll be happy with either one. But I can't wait to see that next championship reign for the Grand Slam of the NWA, the Dane event. And you need to put that on a T-shirt. We're going to sell 1 million of them because I'm buying at least 2 of them.
Right.
Size double sexy XL. And
that's
all I can say, man.
I appreciate you guys. And, man, let's do this again.
All right.
Oh, we will.
Yeah, we'll be calling you up when you get that title. We're to celebrate that championship with you, whichever one it is.
You guys have got the cart way out there before the horse, fellas.
Hey, some people I'm just telling you right now, I know it's going to happen because the momentum is too big right now for you, my brother, and you're doing everything right. So, keep going. And man, I can't wait to see what the near future holds for Jax Dane, man.
Well, let's turn the dial a little bit. Let's turn it up and make it a little more entertaining.
That's right.
Thanks, fellas.
Thank you, Jax.
Yep.
You have a good
Thanks,
one.
brother.
Happy New Year. So that was Jax Dane. Such a good guy. His character is not short of being modest, but that dude is so humble and such a good dude. And I genuinely mean it when I can't wait for what's next with him. We're going to call it a night because it's already we're an hour and a couple minutes in, and you guys all saw Power Surge. We saw the setups. We know what the tag team main event is set for December the 4th. We're going to have The End take on La Rebelión, who I've seen now multiple times in Mexico, and I don't think they're dropping those tag titles anytime soon. We know that Melina is going to be challenging Camille for that Burke title. That match should be a real fun match. We know that Scion is challenging the Tyrus for Jax Dane's television championship whenever he wants to pick it up. And, of course, the main event has been set up. Trevor Murdoch defending his 10 pounds of gold against Mike Knox. And who knows, maybe Jax Dane will make a run in at the end. But we're going to call it a night. So if you want to DKM, if folks want to follow you on the social media, how do they do that?
Go want my wrestling insights or more likely retweets. Follow me on Twitter at DKMFWTX, where I'll probably also regale you with retweets of collegiate wrestling, which has started up. So go wrestling.
And Kevin, how can folks find you on the social medias?
Oh yeah, man, you can check me out on Twitter. It's Kevin Lee Frazier. You can also check me out on Instagram, Kevin Lee Frazier. You can also check out my YouTube wrestling videos. You can always just search Kevin Douglas Wrestling, or you can go to Kevin Douglas 247. I want to say one quick thing about Jax Dane before I sign off. I've known Jax for a long time, and he has managed to continue to stay as humble as he always ever has. I've never seen Jax Dane in that kind of mental disposition where, he's just he's at that point. And I think I can understand where you say, look, I'm tired of all the crap and I really don't care what anybody thinks of me anymore. It's my body, it's my career, this is my life, and I'm going to take the bull by the horns and I'm going to get out there and get it. And I can really, really respect that. And again, I don't think I've ever seen this side of him. And I'm really excited to see what the future holds. And, I want to say the last few people we've had on the show, Danny Limelight, and I would say Alexander Hammerstone, these guys ended up with world championship gold around their waist not long after they came off of our show. I'm telling you guys right now, like you're looking at a steamroller going through, and I'm excited, man. This is I'm really excited for Jax Dane's the reason I'm dropping $5 a month on the NWA, straight up.
I mean, yeah. So first and foremost, thanks guys for watching. I'll be back here on Tuesday with the pre-party, as we'll be getting you pumped up for whatever is going to be on the Tuesday night offering of the NWA. I'm not sure what they have left in the tank. We went through St. Louis. We went through By Any Means Necessary, so we'll see. But I'll be here to talk about the news and information of the National Wrestling Alliance and the United Wrestling Network. And, of course, you can follow us on all social medias at the Alliance Blog. That's Facebook, that's Twitter, that's Instagram, that's TikTok, that's Tumblr. And if you're watching us on YouTube or Twitch.tv, we do appreciate it. We're 190 subscribers away from 1,000. Be a friend, tell a friend. Let your pals who like wrestling know that this is the channel that supports community, that brings in the wrestlers you want to hear from, that brings in wrestling you want to watch and talks NWA. That's going to do it for us. So, guys, if I don't see you sooner, have a good week, and we'll see you at the matches.